Hey, this is gonna be a bit of a strange video this time. Unfortunately, just with a lot happening recently, I'm not really able to fully edit this video. So instead of being like a video essay or analysis kind of thing, this is gonna be more like a live read along. Like, I'm just gonna just chat about the chapter and read through it with you all, and one reason that I'm doing this is because I can't show visuals. I'm just gonna mention page numbers from the translation that all of us are probably reading. Um, just because there's a lot to cover with this one and a lot of things that I want people to be able to see. So, uh, it, sorry in advance, but this is just gonna be a bit of a weird one. I'm going to call this volume 12 video, but it's more just like the remainder of volume 12. If you have any questions about like early volume 12 stuff, definitely check out my previous two videos, the 65 and 64 videos, because I'm not really going to cover much of that here. But this will cover chapter 66, and I don't think it's officially titled, but side story 5. This doesn't have the volume extras if you're reading, or if you're watching this like way later and have the full version. I don't have the volume extras at the moment, but from what I've seen, it's nothing too major. Also, before we get into this, just a couple of things I want to mention. The Bondrood video is currently pretty far in progress. Currently I'm in like the editing and visual making stage. I can't say for sure when that'll be out. Again, just a lot has been going on. But I will do my best to get it out sometime this month. Also, the Drill House Discord server is up if any of you want to join for playtesting or general questions and updates. Uh, there's a link in Devlog 1 for that if you're interested at all. Also, I have commissions and donations up on my YouTube page. There's a link for that. I would really appreciate any support you all could give. Again, with a lot of stuff happening, money is a bit at the moment, so I would really appreciate any support you could give for that. Um, okay, let's get into the actual chapter. A lot of this early stuff, like right now, I'm starting on page one of what 20 or 41. Most of this stuff is Sakushi being Sakushi. Um, the main thing of note here is again the like, oh, you and your friends are gonna like become like Shirumi and Mine, but I don't know. It doesn't seem very clear yet, but there's definitely something going on. After reading through all of this, I assume it has to do with like just something inherent to the twins themselves. Um, but some of the stuff that they mentioned, like, oh, your right arm is similar to ours, with Regs being amputated, brought to mind for me the fact that, like, a lot of physical damage has happened to, I guess, Hello Abyss now, slash Team Rico, whatever they're called. Um, but like especially because there's even a song Quartet of Broken Arms, like Reg's lost an arm, Rico's almost lost an arm, Prushka's lost a lot, Fapata's lost an arm. Like, the losing of limbs specifically just seems to be something major within the Abyss, and it seems to be like a fated event, the canon event moment. Not entirely sure the reason why. it might be curse related, maybe like some overarching curse. Um, but still very vague at the moment, which is going to be true for a lot of this stuff. This arc is really sticking to theme of being like about mystery and secrets. Um, Definitely interesting, but leaves a lot to speculation and not much to analysis here. Um, Now I'm on to page 9 and onward about the food stuff. Food stuff is always nice. Um, it's nice seeing a very wholesome scene between these two groups, and how there's just a connection between the two. I'll get to that more in a little bit, but it is nice seeing once again another way to really like flesh out the characters of Hail Hex. Um, Also, note down page 10, not really for any like specific major reason, I guess. Mostly just this is a really easy page to see Nishigora's chest, or like her stomach marking thing. I guess this is also a good page to see her chest, but then that's not that's not important here. Her like stomach tattoo thing. Um just keep that symbol in mind because I'll be talking about it later near the end of the chapter. Um yeah, once again, Hello Abyss being very cutesy and themselves. Uh what is his name? I'm blanking on it. Yamatamaru. Seeing more characterization of Yamatamaru is interesting. Um, like he definitely has like very brotherly, caring kind of energy. Um, Even going behind Straja's back and telling them to put salt in it. And also the whole thing of the Strajo getting like ridiculously depressed if the cooking is messed up. I don't know. I just like it when there's like small characterization stuff, especially for the white whistles, because that is usually how we can like, outside of just like, you know, appreciation of the character, a lot of those small little details are how we can really get a good look at those characters. Um, and like once the Bondroot video comes around, it'll be pretty obvious. The small things go a long way in building up, especially the white whistles. Uh, let's see, more funny pictures of Fapata on page 15. A little getting ready thing. It kind of reminds me of like the end of season 1, which is nice. And again, Yamatamaru being, you know, sticking to the theme, the Srajo secret, pointing out the casket again. Sorry, I had to pause for a sec. My dog was yelling at something. There's a symbol on the casket as well. From this angle, it's pretty hard to see, but it looks a bit like, it looks a little bit like Srajo's whistle, and that center thing looks a little bit like the Nishigora stomach symbol. I'm not really sure what to call it. If you saw one of my previous videos, I don't remember which one I talked about it in, but that symbol does come up in a few different places. It is on Reg's belt. Yeah, it's on his belt. It's on the incarnation of the abyss, that like weird pillar thing that we saw a sketch of. Uh, we might have seen it other places, but I can't think of where. Those are like the main ones. at least my initial assumption is it might be like you know, like the crescent moon symbol, how that's kind of like Orth's interpretation of the abyss. This eye symbol, I mean, okay, originally I thought it might be the abyss's symbol for itself, but now after this chapter is done, I'm not entirely sure. It definitely has a connection to the abyss in a way that like the crescent moon is more disconnected. Like it's some abyssal symbol for possibly a connection to the abyss rather than an interpretation of the abyss itself. It's hard to tell. We'll probably see it a lot more later and get more clear meaning on it. Um, let's see. Uh, Srajo being quiet on page 17 is interesting. Not really too sure why. Um, Mentioning the eye again on page 18. I'll talk more about that later once we actually see it. On page 19, this is something I'll talk more about later again once we talk about like the connection between Hail Hex and Hello Abyss. But Rico seems to have a lot of admiration for Srajo, I think especially because Srajo, unlike a lot of other Delvers even, really understands like the deeper philosophy of Rico and her views on adventure and kind of is similar in that way. Okay, page 20. I'll talk about it here, but there I think Hello Abyss and Hail Hex are parallels of each other, at least in some ways. They have a lot of similarities. Um, they both have like cursed members mixed with humans, mixed with some themes of death with that casket and Rico. They both have members with four robotic limbs. And also, it's pretty easy to see here, but Rico and Srajo, their hair at least with their helmets on looks pretty similar. Um, I think Srajo's design is kind of like it's kind of a very idealized version of Rico almost. Like a Rico who is much older, who has explored the abyss and had the markings of the abyss, and is like a Rico who really understands current Rico's like idea of adventure. Like they share that thing. I mean, they even have like their white whistles are a lot more similarly shaped than compared to other white whistles. They have small little creature companions riding on them. They got the helmet. Their tops are kind of inverses of each other. They both have the, you know, things strapped around their waist. Like overall, Srajo seems to be very similar to Rico in some ways, but obviously is going to be very different. Um, I'll I kind of touch on this a bit more in the Bondrood video that's coming up. Just like in general, how the white whistles are different to Rico. Um, I do think that they're the most similar here, but I think through the course of this arc, we'll see how these two are different, and it will really help Rico move into like the next stage. Um, but yeah, overall, definitely a lot of parallels, and I think by the end of this, there might even be more parallels. Like I think uh, Hello Abyss coming out of this arc is probably going to be a lot more. Uh, I don't really know the word, but I guess more like Hail Hex than they are currently, which is still very similar. Um, Let's see. Yeah, mentioning the limbs thing, which I already kind of talked about. Um, yeah, some strange air about them, which we get a little more info in the side story. Talking about a possible like power around them. There definitely seems to be something up with the twins in general. Um, and it's also interesting seeing Rico say that those limbs are third works. Because I think this might be the first example of like a non-egg relic that we've seen like duplicates of. I could and probably am wrong on that. I know that there are some like lower grade relics that are pretty common. But I guess it just is interesting seeing that even with higher up relics outside of the eggs, there are multiples of them. So grade is more of a video gamey rarity calculation more than just, oh, this is one thing that is only found in this one specific area. Just kind of like a side tangent thought, not really anything important. Page 23, we see the Eye of the Abyss. Um, and how, it almost looks like a living creature. We'll talk about this more again once we get to like the end of this chapter. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting seeing how, like, when a lot of us saw the seventh layer, it was kind of a debate between, oh, is this like a weird spiral thing, or is this like an eye? Ironically, I guess it's both. Um, like, it seems more like just a flesh pustule thing. But I'll talk more about that when we get into like the Hari Omari stuff. Uh, and then page 24, we have officially reached the seventh layer, which, okay, I've kind of been back and forth on this the past few chapters between like, oh, is this gonna be like, are we only going to get one arc per area or one arc per layer, or is it gonna be like two arcs per layer in these deeper areas? So my guess is kind of what I was thinking last chapter. It seems like this arc will mostly be focused on like the edge top part of the seventh layer, and then they will be trying to get past whatever the gate is of this. If you're not sure what I mean by a gate, I've talked about it before in a lot of my other videos of just like analyzing the structure of Made in Abyss. I'll leave the link to the Google Doc that I have like more information on that. But essentially, gates are like the third layer, or like the altar of the absolute boundary, like just things that Rico needs to bypass that can only be bypassed by the knowledge that she gains and physical stuff even that she gains from her time with a white whistle. Not sure what the gate is here. Originally I thought it was the eye, but I guess it's something more. But beyond that, the next arc I can assume is deeper seventh layer with a pivotal ring, and that would connect more to like Reg and stuff like that. But that does leave that puts into question the rest of the structure, because I know that like after this arc there's a next arc, probably the pivotal ring, which will focus again on Gutsu like this arc is, as well as some kind of new theme. And then the arc after that will focus on Wakuna, and then, according to my interpretation of the structure, there would be another arc after that, and then Liza arc, and then possibly another arc after that. Now I'm not too sure. Um, that would make sense with our current structure, but we don't have enough space for all of that. At least from what we know at the moment, assuming that after the seventh layer is something else, or is like a final end spot, which something later in this chapter makes me think that this won't be quite the end of the abyss. Um, but another thing is that I'm sorry, this is super rambly. I really hope everyone's following along with me, but if not, shoot me a comment below and I'll try and explain things better. But essentially, so Wakuna is the white whistle of the fourth level of value, which is May. And May is all about like chaos and change and kind of like a shift. Um, it would make sense that with Wakuna's introduction, our understanding of probably the Abyss, as well as probably our understanding of like the structure of Made in Abyss as a series, is probably going to completely change. Until that, though, I can't really give anything concrete as to uh, what is going to happen in the future of Made in Abyss, structure wise, other than my guess is things will probably be changing in the eventual future. Not too sure how much things will change, but we'll see. Yeah, bringing up the Omari collection at the moment. I'm on page 26. We see a funny creature in the background. This looks kind of like those weird, like, jellyfish crab monster things from the sixth layer, but, stranger even. Very far away, so we can't really, say too much. Yeah, here is the Hello Abyss thing. Bonds of the Netherworld, which, it's interesting that Sarajo points this out, that uh like how tied the members of Hello Abyss are to the Abyss itself, especially compared to a lot of like other squads. Um which the name Hello Abyss would be pretty fitting then, because if you don't know, Hello Abyss was the original name of Made in Abyss before it shifted. So it makes sense that they are following in suit of that. Let's see. Okay, page 30. Here we are starting to look at the Omari collection. Having a bit of a teacher moment here. Turn your pages to 30, if you will. The first passage, the untitled passage partially missing, uh, seems to be just a description of the seventh layer. Many eyes are watching, most likely the eyes of the abyss that we've seen. Those big spiral flesh things that we've seen on the map of the abyss as well are most likely that, or at least connected to it. It's I think I see some in the background of this image as well, but it's a little hard to tell. Once we know more about them, it'll probably be easier to point out what's like an eye of the abyss and what's just a weird spirally shit. So it says, not the depths below nor the heavens above. I'm not sure if this means like if this is implying like like, oh, the seventh layer is watching you, and you're kind of separated here from like the surface watching you or something below watching you. Not too sure. Also, again, not sure if the eyes are actually watching. We're not really sure what they are. It's not sure if this is just like an interpretation of the eyes because they're called eyes. Um, but it could also be more of a metaphorical thing, um, some type of connection with the eyes of the abyss, as opposed to the eyes of above or below. Because if you look at the abyss from above, it looks a bit like an eye. Um, and I assume like the looking above or below is kind of the eye interpretation of the like looking up towards the surface or looking down towards like the pivotal ring. Not really too sure. I am kind of doubting it's that, but it's something interesting to think on for later probably. Chosen is the road for the soul. It is the road of the very large maelstrom. This is a lot more basic and obvious. The abyss is a physical and spiritual path for the soul, either through dying and having your soul literally go into the netherworld, or through what Rico is doing of like spiritual ascension kind of. And yeah, like with the maelstrom being, like the final maelstrom, this is the final stretch of the pathway that the soul needs to go on its way to ascension. Although, because obviously we're still in the Gutsu phase, um, there definitely seems to be more going on. Because this is definitely not the end of our journey. Um, but yeah, well, I'll get to that later. The last section, the high tide of calamity with fading poison, continues as the ordinary on the other side. I'm not too sure about this. So the poison, it could be the curse, it could be something more. Um like Hail Hex all have gas masks. Um and they were talking about like needing some type of knowledge in order to traverse the seventh layer. I think this might be what the gate is. Possibly just like this poison in general. It may not be a literal poison, but with how generally descriptive this passage has been, it might be that might just be like an environmental thing of this area, which would also fit with like how just generally hazardous the sixth layer was, if this layer is just like outside of just the monsters and the curse is just a hazard. um that last section though continues as the ordinary on the other side. I'm not sure if that means like oh, you need to bypass this tide of calamity, this poison, in order to get to a more like calm area, or if it's talking about like there being more on the other side. I don't know. This is very up in the air. Definitely just trying to raise a lot of questions, which is good because we had a lot of questions and hints towards the sixth layer, um, all the way back in like, I mean, even in the beginning, I guess, but like especially once we got to once we met Nanachi, um, we had just been getting like drip fed information on the sixth layer, so it was this big mystery. We Haven't really had that much with the seventh layer, so there's definitely a lot of catching up to do in terms of trying to make it mysterious, other than it's the final area and we want to see it. Um, so Tsukushi is really going into like overtime trying to give us a lot of questions. Like there's so much unanswered, confusing stuff here. And unfortunately, I can't really give an answer to a lot of it because a lot of it is just stuff that we'll see in the future. Or at least we'll have the pieces in the future to be able to solve it. Um, this next section, or this next passage, though not truly the same, it imitates breathing in and out. From outside, it all looks normal, but here you can see a glimpse. So, originally, when I was reading through this the first time, I was thinking, like, oh, we have always thought that, like, oh, the seventh layer looks very organic. It could be like a living creature. And I was thinking, like, oh, this could be like, oh, it's not quite a living creature, but is instead just like mimicking one. Which would be very strange since like the sixth layer mimicking a golden city makes sense, even if it's just like a crystal mirage. It's something that draws in humans, but a mystery flesh pit really isn't the most inviting area for the average person. So I wasn't entirely sure why the abyss would mimic something so organic here. Um, we'll probably get more later on that as we see more of the seventh layer. But something else is this connects to something in a few pages once we get to Ozen. But this breathing in and out seems to be talking about the cycle, like the Y2K cycle. Um, but I'll talk about that once we get to Ozen. And then the Grons hymn, or Gronza hymn, I'm assuming Grons. Uh, this seems to be like an extension of what Kravali, or I guess Kravalgi now, according to the wiki, what Kravalgi was singing. Um, my thoughts on it are similar to last time, but here we get a bit more juice to it outside of just like vague symbolism. Uh, so this gentle voice, I'm not sure if this gentle voice is the Shrine Maiden, if the Shrine Maiden is calling people, um, or if it is like something more like the abyss itself, which I guess technically the Shrine Maiden and the Abyss's voice are the same since the Shrine Maiden speaks for the Abyss, so I guess that would be the most likely option. The only other connection that I was thinking was like Wazikyan's visions. Um, like the prophecy that was given to Wazikyan was given by something that wasn't necessarily working with him. If you want more information on that, I have a whole video on Wazikyan. But I was thinking it could possibly be something like that, like something that just like speaks to people. But I guess the Shrine Maiden speaking on behalf of the Abyss makes sense for this. Um, the one glittering gold flake, again, importance of gold. I talked about that in my Fapata video. Um, as gold just being something beyond value, kind of, some sort of ascension, I guess. In this situation, since the faraway nest seems to be some sort of ascending thing, um, this gold flake um might be like just like an indication of that, because gold is like once you complete your entire value journey, you kind of go into this like gold state, I guess. Like that is why Fapata looks different. She completed her first ascension, her ascension of the Haku of her mother, and currently she's on her Haku of Gabaroon, and then eventually Rag. Um, but yeah, gold and ascension, like the Buddhist idea of going on a spiritual journey and ascending to either a higher state of being to go on another ascension, or to like fully complete your ascension. That kind of stuff all ties into all of this. Um, I am not the most qualified one to talk about that, but definitely something to look into. Um, a bundle of stars filling a dark sky. Sorry, lost train of thought. Had to take a call real quick. So bundle of stars filling a dark sky. The only things I could think of that would be related to this is like stars could be souls, or stars could be the members of Hello Abyss. The star symbol we've seen before. It's obviously it's inside the star compass. Um, and that star compass symbol is inside of the cradle of desire. Um, so it could be that stars are kind of referring to Hello Abyss as a group, a bundle of accumulated stars that are shining brightly, which, Srajo mentioned how brightly they shone. Um, could be that, could be something else, though. Um, to those who have answered, the flake reaches beyond the spiral. I'm assuming the maelstrom. Reborn in the faraway nest. I'll point out something I noticed. I guess when we get to the next page, I'll talk a bit more about that, but I have some thoughts on that. Um, Shining unaware by a soul, a red star dropped into the abyss. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too sure what that means. The only thing that I could think of for being the red star would be Rico herself. Um, like, technically, before being a white whistle, her rank is red whistle. Um, and she follows a lot of like the philosophy of that red whistle, um, like like very much idealizing the abyss and shining bright, whereas a lot of other people, as they go through, to blue, to moon, to black, and eventually possibly to white, um, they usually take on a lot of the darkness of the abyss, and it shapes who they are. Rico hasn't had that. She's gone through a lot. She's gone through more than probably most Delvers, but she is still extremely optimistic, almost like naively so, and refuses to give up that childlike wonder, which is really what makes her special. And, a lord of children, or a sovereign of children, as Prushka called her. I think that is likely what that means. It has always been implied that children are special within the abyss, and this could just be the reason why. There might be more to it than that, but I think this childlike willingness to just keep going no matter what, and to still be curious and to still be optimistic and positive. I think that's interesting. Like that's very rare within the abyss, or just like in general. But that's kind of my thoughts on that. We'll probably get more context in the future. Um, but definitely keep this kind of thing in the back of your minds when we get to volume 13 stuff eventually. Um, and possibly 14 and so on. Um, because these will most likely be mentioned again in some capacity, or at least I'll have like something will be like, oh, this brings this to mind for me. But yeah, okay. Page 32. This symbol, the faraway nest. I'm not sure if this is the faraway nest, but this is what the joint expedition party saw in the second layer. This okay, so this makes 3 symbols. And I talked about the other 2 before, that crescent moon symbol and that weird other symbol that's on Nishigora. These are all very recurring symbols. We've seen them everywhere, and they have different levels of connection to the abyss. This one we've seen in, I've noticed it in, I think I mentioned it in like the last video or something. I think it's in the star compass if I remember correctly. I know it's in a lot of egg-shaped relics. But either way, this, like the other symbols, reminds me a lot of an eye, especially the way it's portrayed here. Which, with the eye of the abyss, or like the eyes of the abyss, is probably some level of importance, I would assume. Another thing that this makes me think of, if you look at this top part, like above the circle, this is vaguely the shape of the abyss, possibly the abyss like going inward from the surface of the earth. If that is the case, and this is what made me think that like the Nishigora symbol isn't the symbol, or the abyss's symbol for itself, it could be this. If this is actually the abyss's symbol for itself, then this raises a lot of questions. For one, this orb in the middle might be the faraway nest. It might be that like ascension thing that happens. That like final point where you get to be reborn that is calling you. But then that raises the question, what's that? What's underneath that? Is there, like, this looks like 2 abysses mirrored on top of each other with something in the middle. This might be where May happens, I guess. And this is more just like rambly, vague thoughts. If the 7th layer ends with the pivotal ring arc, and the following arc is the Wakuna arc, the Wakuna arc might take place in that orb, or on the edge of that orb, which, if that's the case, would be pretty fitting for May, because, you know, we only know the 7 layers of the abyss, and we know something is at the bottom. If there is this much more stuff here, that, I mean, that would definitely fit May, just as an idea. and like assuming that the structure of the series doesn't fundamentally change drastically um with May, then it could be that this like eighth layer, I guess, this like central point could be the May section with Wakuna and then something else. And then this bottom section could be the Liza section, maybe. I don't know. This is more just vague speculation rather than any like, oh, I think this is what's gonna happen. Either way, uh, this symbol raises a lot of questions, um, and may point towards a lot of answers. But either way, this is going to be like very crucial to our understanding of the abyss, and probably just like the series in general going forward. So definitely, if it wasn't obvious by how it's presented here, definitely something to keep in mind. Um, Next, going on to 33, onto the Ozen arc. Um, I I really like how this like side story chapter, the art style is very similar to like old Made in Abyss, which is, I mean, it very likely could have been a time thing, but it does fit very well into like showing Ozen's presence, I guess. Um, but yeah, interesting art stuff. So, going over it, yeah, talking about the nursery rhyme and the connection to the Omari collection. Uh, Again, remember last time we saw Ozen and Jiro together. Uh, Jiro was going to Ozen to ask about the birthday death disease. So, kind of just a TLDR for a lot of this. In some way, the birthday death disease is connected to all of this stuff. Um, and it says, yeah, like it has a touch of the occult, right? The 2,000 year breath is even written in it. Again, tying back to that, like, the Y2K cycle. And also, sorry, and also connecting to the way the seventh layer was described as like breathing, or so as some people believe, I guess. um Very very vague still, um what this breath is, but it could just be another like a more well understood description of the cycle. Yeah, next page, Ozen, being Ozen. Um, okay. Uh, Page 36. Um, Talking about the twins. How, um, actually, hold on, let me read through this. Yeah. Have you ever met a pair of twins? No, but I did hear there were a pair of brother and sister twins in the Northern District. Um, Going on to the next page. Twins are rare and seem to be cyclical for some reason. Um, like in Orth, there either is or isn't a pair of single pair twins every 30 years, or a single pair of twins every 30 years, which, yeah, very descriptive and concrete there. There's definitely some form of uh, some things going on where I'm not really too sure why. Um, like, hmm. it's possible that it has to do with just like souls being affected differently in Orth than they are in other places. It could be just a side effect of the curse. Birthday, death, disease stuff again. But also, Ozen brings up that they, all of these twins are called Shirumi and Mine. I don't know what the meaning of these names are, if there is an external meaning. Um, Otherwise, it's probably just some like internal meaning stuff, like with Prushka's name. I think the only character who really has deeper meaning to their name outside of the story is like Rico, but that's it. Um, Whatever. Yeah, Shirumi and Mine are all of the twins, which explains why the Shirumi and Mine in Hail Hex are so different from the Shirumi and Mine that we saw previously, which also explains why the ones that we saw previously in like the Iriburu flashbacks, why they are so well, like why they're dead, why they look so different, why they had a connection to Ozen that these twins don't seem to, why these twins are Juso, which like it's nice getting confirmation that they are Juso and not just Narahate, because that also adds on to the fact that like they were just born this way. Um let's see. Yeah, talking about like fate stuff essentially, that no matter what, for very different reasons, all of the twins ended up being called Shroomy and Mine. Sorry, sorry, this is going on for so long. Brain drain and voice hoarseness is starting to settle on pretty bad, so I'll try and wrap up these couple last pages pretty quick. Um, but so yeah, Shurumi and Mine are mentioned in the original. Not sure if this is talking about the Omari collection, being like the original version of the the fairy tale, the folk tale thing. I'm guessing it's talking about that. But the term erased names, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if this is like their curse names, or Shirumi and Mine were like I don't know, like something happened to the original ones and now their souls are in kind of like an odd cycle, possibly, um, of just constantly dying and trying to be reborn and just being like a constant plague, I guess. Um, let's see. No, we are not here to see the twins, but it is a place with a relation to them. The site of an accident. This could be talking about like the last time that we saw like the first pair of Shirumi and Mine, when they were talking about Ozen and one of them was dead, and they seem to be like trapped somewhere. This could be where that was happening. Um, let's see. 40, page 40 has some interesting stuff. Like, oh, calling this person a leftover, or um, calling them, or them calling Ozen a thief of Orith. Um, this person could be, I'm not too sure who they could be. Uh, um, they most likely have some connection to either the previous Shirumi and Mine that we saw, which would, explain why this person is so not happy with Ozen. Um, or it could be just someone who's like vaguely related. Uh, yeah, he's the sole survivor of the curse that is spilling onto here. Um, hmm. Honestly, not entirely sure. This could be talking about how, like, stuff like the birthday death disease and possibly Shirumi and Mine themselves are products of the curse spilling into Orth and prepping up for uh the next like a 2,000 year breath kind of thing. Um this person also has that odd abyss symbol thing with the two abysses and the dot on their forehead. Um Also, this person doesn't have any limbs. I don't know if this is like one of the previous twins or just someone related to the twins. Um Not entirely sure. I don't like the generally the vibe of this entire chapter is there's a lot here and not much of it is fully clear. It's a lot of Tsukushi starting a lot of things that we won't get answers to for a while. Um, but yeah, all of this in some way ties back into each other. That's one thing I can say for sure. Um, like the 2,000 year cycle is connected um, to Shirumi and Mine and to the birthday death disease, and those are connected to Hail Hex, and Hail Hex seems to have some direct connection outside of that to the 2,000 year cycle. And the Omari collection seems to be a mix of seventh layer descriptions as well as talking about the cycle itself. Also, I noticed that this person has like Ozen-y hair as well. Um but yeah, like all of this stuff ties back into itself. And kind of like with the last arc, it seems to be delving a lot more into that ascension. I mean, because like the main themes of this arc are Gutsu and value and very much the soul, and so soul is going on their value journey, or like that's the big thing here. So all of this stuff is various pieces to the same puzzle pretty much. um Starting to draw the outline of something that we'll see a lot more of later. But yeah, I'm very excited for once volume 13 starts, because this volume did a lot of prep work for getting us ready for delving into the seventh layer, because this is really like the longest break setup period that we've had. Um, but there is a lot to chew on here, and soon, hopefully soon ish, we'll see how it all connects. Oh my god, this is like an hour long. Um, but yeah, after this is up, over the next couple of weeks, I'll probably be working a bit on the Bondroot video. I do have a lot going on, especially in like the second half of this month. So, no promises on this getting out, or on the Bondroot video getting out this month, but I'll try my best. Also, again, any support from like donations or checking out commissions or checking out the game development stuff. All of that is very greatly appreciated. But so is just watching these videos. I'm very appreciative of just like having a group of people I can talk to about random Made in Abyss stuff. Analyzing this is very enjoyable for me. And hopefully, even with how rambly I am, hopefully this is at least somewhat enjoyable for you all. But yeah, if you have any questions, please ask. I'm sorry this video is like an hour long. But I will see you in the next video. Bye.